The Los Angeles sun poured down like melted gold onto the sleek buildings of Beverly Hills, its beams ricocheting off walls of glass and shimmering across the metallic skins of luxury cars parked outside a high-end dealership. Inside the massive showroom, the air was rich with a faint whiff of leather upholstery, polished wood, and machinery so finely tuned it was almost a form of art. Salespeople glided around in perfectly tailored suits, their smiles precise yet plastic, their eyes carefully scanning their clientele. It was the kind of place that reeked of exclusivity, a shrine to the gods of wealth and status. A quiet buzz filled the room. Well-dressed customers admired the jaw-droppingly expensive vehicles, voices low, pitches measured. Then the front door swung open, and in walked a man. Keanu Reeves didn't look much like the glamour-imbued clientele frequenting the dealership. Medium-length dark hair framed a well-weathered face, covered by a patchy beard. He wore his signature uniform of a plain black t-shirt, a pair of well-fitted jeans, and an old pair of brown boots that had seen better days. With his laid-back demeanor and trademark humility, he didn't enter like someone looking to make a statement. He stepped inside, all quiet grace and ease, blending instantly into the background despite his worldwide fame. To the staff, however, he was just another casually clad pedestrian, out of place and likely wasting their time. "Excuse me," Keanu murmured, his voice barely rising above the low hum of conversation and the clinking of glasses in the opulent showroom. He stepped forward, his heart racing as he approached the polished front desk, the scent of leather and gasoline wrapping around him like a thrilling embrace. The air crackled with an electric anticipation, a feeling that whispered of speed and adventure. "I'm here to see a vintage Ferrari GTO," he continued, his words deliberate and measured, the weight of his desire hanging heavily in the air. "I saw online that you had one in stock." As he spoke, he could almost hear the roar of the engine, the thrill of the open road beckoning him with promises of freedom and exhilaration. Every moment stretched, the excitement palpable, as he awaited a response that would either shatter his dreams or set them ablaze. The receptionist hardly lifted her gaze from the glaring screen of her laptop, her fingers dancing over the keys with a mechanical precision that suggested she was deeply entrenched in a world far removed from the one unfolding before her. Her lips pressed into a thin, dismissive line, almost as if they were a fortress guarding her indifference. With a slight arch of her eyebrow, she finally allowed her eyes to flit in his direction, but only for a fleeting moment. "Are you sure, sir?" she inquired, her voice dripping with a rich blend of skepticism and condescension that hung heavily in the air, thick as smoke. "That car's quite exclusive, rare, and expensive." The weight of her words lingered, slicing through the atmosphere like a blade, as if she were daring him to prove his worthiness to even dream of such luxury. The fluorescent lights above flickered ominously, casting a stark glow that seemed to echo the unspoken challenge in her tone, a silent warning that he was stepping into a realm reserved for those who truly belonged. Keanu, unfazed, nodded. "Yes, that's the one. Would I be able to take a look?" "Aha, sure. Let me get someone to assist you," she said, the tone of her promise making it clear she'd do no such thing. Keanu lingered at the desk, hands in his pockets, patience unbroken. Several seconds passed before a sharply dressed middle-aged man sauntered over. He bore the air of a manager, his polished shoes clicking with authority, his golden Rolex peeking from under a pinstriped sleeve. "Can I help you?" Richard Whitman, the dealership's general manager, barked, his tone dripping with condescension that hung in the air like a thick fog. The bright fluorescent lights above flickered ominously, casting sharp shadows that danced across the polished floor, mirroring the tension brewing between the two men. Richard's piercing gaze swept over Keanu, taking in every detail of his appearance. The scuffed shoes that had seen better days, the frayed edges of his jacket, and the unkempt hair that defied the pristine environment of luxury vehicles surrounding them. With each scrutinizing glance, Richard's dismissive smirk deepened, as if he were assessing not just Keanu's outward look, but also a lifetime of decisions that led him to this very moment. The air crackled with unspoken words, a battle of wills unfolding beneath the surface as Keanu stood resolute, a storm brewing in his chest, determined not to be cowed by the dismissive air of superiority emanating from the man before him. Yes, Keanu explained politely. I understand you've got a vintage 1962 Ferrari GTO in your inventory. I'd like to have a look at it, if possible. Richard couldn't help but laugh under his breath, though his expression never softened. That's a $300 million car, he said flatly, folding his arms. We don't just let people off the street walk in and take a look. Those kinds of vehicles are meant for serious buyers. I am serious, Keanu said simply. Richard raised an eyebrow, openly skeptical yet amused. Right? Look, he continued, his words laced with condescension. These cars are highly exclusive. If you're just here for fun, you can check out one of the cheaper models we have. I'm sure there's a Camaro down the hall, or something more suited to your budget. Keanu remained calm, his hands still firmly in his pockets. While many in his situation would have become indignant or stormed out, Keanu didn't even flinch. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, observing Richard curiously, as though watching someone reveal more about themselves than they realized. I'd really like to see the GTO, Keanu said again, his tone unshaken. But Richard wasn't done. He sneered, stepping closer as if to intimidate him, his chest puffed out. And I'd really like to not waste my time, buddy, he said, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. Do you even know how many zeros that car has on its price tag? You're not buying it. I can tell. What happened next shocked everyone in the vicinity. Instead of backing down or responding with anger, Keanu remained impossibly steady. But when Richard moved a little too close, his body language bordering on intimidation, Keanu instinctively raised a gentle hand to stop him, firm but non-confrontational. Hey, Keanu said softly, his voice as calm as waves brushing against the shoreline. Respect should be free. Don't you think? A brief flicker of confusion passed over Richard's face. Something about the kindness in Keanu's restrained gesture seemed to disarm him, but only for a moment. The manager straightened up, red-faced, and muttered something about wasting time before storming off. Unnoticed by either Richard or Keanu, a young man standing near the corner of the showroom had been quietly recording everything on his phone. It only took him minutes to upload the video onto social media, where it began catching fire like parched kindling in the wind. The internet knows no walls. The next morning, the world woke to hashtags like hashtag respect should be free and hashtag Keanu keeps it classy dominating social media platforms. Celebrities and fans alike rallied behind the actor, condemning the dealership's shameless elitism and rude treatment. The viral video garnered millions of views, with users praising Keanu for maintaining his trademark humility and composure in the face of blatant disrespect. The dealership, meanwhile, faced customer outrage and public backlash. Calls poured in from former patrons demanding to know whether the video accurately represented their business principles. Longtime customers wrote reviews expressing disappointment, promising to take their money elsewhere. Within days, the once proud dealership's reputation was reduced to ashes. Richard Whitman locked himself in his office for hours, uncharacteristically silent, his mind racing and pride wounded. Something about the way Keanu had spoken to him, calm yet profound, unsettled him in ways his ego couldn't process. The return. It was 3 long, tense days after the incident that sent shockwaves through the dealership. A mere blink in the timeline of the universe, yet an eternity in the hearts of those who had witnessed it. When the iconic figure of Keanu Reeves emerged once more through the glistening glass doors, the air inside felt electric, crackling with unspoken words and unshared glances. Staff members huddled in small, anxious clusters, their whispers a cacophony of unease and speculation, fear mingling with curiosity. Would he seek vengeance for the wrongs he had endured? Would he unleash the pent-up storm of emotion that had simmered just beneath the surface since that fateful day? But then, like a serene calm in the midst of a raging tempest, he stepped into their midst, not as a titan of Hollywood, but as the same quiet, humble man they had always known. Dressed simply, with his trademark gentle smile illuminating his face, Keanu exuded an aura of kindness that seemed to wash over the room like a soothing balm. The tension that had clung to the dealership like a thick fog began to lift as he moved through the space, each step deliberate and measured, radiating a warmth that dispelled the chill of fear. In that moment, he transformed the atmosphere, reminding everyone present that true strength lies not in anger or retribution, but in compassion and understanding. The whispers faded, replaced by a sense of reverence. He was not just a celebrity, but a beacon of grace, guiding them away from the shadows of doubt and into the light of hope. Richard emerged from his office moments later, his appearance haggard, his confidence visibly shaken. He walked over with slow strides, looking more human, less blustery, his hands shoved into his pockets this time. "Mr. Reeves," Richard began, searching for words. I just want to say, I'm sorry for how I treated you." Keanu studied him for a long moment. "I appreciate the apology," he said, his expression thoughtful. "But I want to make one thing clear. That day wasn't about me. It's about how you treat people. Anyone who walks in here." Richard swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his words. "Everyone deserves respect," Keanu continued. "Whether they're here to buy a vintage GTO or just admire it. Whether they look rich or ordinary, famous or not. That's the real kind of luxury. How you treat people, how you make them feel." Richard didn't have a response. The weight of shame sat heavy in his chest. Keanu offered a small, sincere smile. "I hope you'll remember that going forward. Nice cars are great, but they'll never be as valuable as kindness." With that, Keanu left, leaving behind an atmosphere that felt changed, almost lighter, as though he'd opened a window to let fresh air into a stifling room. Days later, the dealership announced new customer service training sessions and pledged to donate proceeds from their highest-end vehicles to local charities. Whether or not it was enough to salvage their tarnished reputation remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. Keanu's voice, calm, firm, and filled with integrity, had left an imprint they wouldn't easily forget. And so, the humble actor went about his life, proving once again that real class doesn't lie in wealth or fame, but in the pure, timeless value of respect.